What's up, guys? Welcome to the second take. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jonah.
And we're back for part 2 of NFL preview. So today is the AFC North and then the AFC East. And then after this podcast's over, we will have the AFC wrapped up for you, go over who we have going to the playoffs from the AFC, and then next week will be the NFC. So we're going to start it out today with the lowly Browns of the NFC North.
Yeah, so the Browns, most people agree looking at them that they look, at least on paper, like the worst team in the league. There's just not a lot of talent on this roster. Looking at this depth chart right now, comes to wide receiver, the champion Jordan doesn't get back right away, is Terrell Pryor. So clearly there's some talent on this team. If you look up and down the roster, it's just filled with like draft busts of the past. I mean, you'll get Justin Gilbert, Barkevious Mingo, arguably Robert Griffin III, but we'll get to that. I think that this is certainly a transition year for the Browns. They just hired a new coach in Hugh Jackson, who I like a lot, and they have a new front office in place. So obviously it's going to take some time for the Browns to put their plan into place. I don't think they expect to do well this year. They're making the right move in stockpiling draft picks. So I think they're headed in the right direction, but I think this is going to be a pretty rough year in Cleveland, and they're not going to have the success of their friends, the Cavs, or even their friends, the Indians.
Yeah, so I want to like the Browns just by, you just talked about the receivers. So if Josh Gordon can come back and play, not suspended, yeah. You have Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, Ricardo Luis could be the third string, and then Gary Barnidge would be a great tight end, and you still have Hawkins. So, there's talent there. You have RG3, who was good for a year. Then injuries happened. I still think he can be a good quarterback. I mean, he's talented. Duke Johnson showed to be okay. So, I mean, you want to like that, but, it's the Browns, and you don't trust them. The defense, the secondary is athletic and talented, but atrocious for some reason. Joe Hayden was terrible last year. Justin Gilbert's a joke. Tramon Williams was good in Green Bay, but that was about 10 years ago. Danny Shelton, who everyone said was going to be so good when they drafted him as defensive tackle, has not been good at all. Mingo, like Jonah said, is bad. Paul Kruger has been about the only good player. Agba, they just drafted this year. I don't like him very much. So, yeah, all in all, the team isn't that great, but you want to like him. Because I like RG3, and I think he can be a solid quarterback if he can stay healthy.
Right. That's very interesting on this team. I mean, certainly Joe Hayden is, him along with Joe Thomas are the only, really high-caliber players on this roster at their positions, I think.
Yes.
There's intriguing stuff elsewhere. I like Carl Nassib at defensive end.
Me too.
Obviously, we both like Ruby Wright,
Yep.
who's an inside line that they stole in the 7th round. I think there's parts of their offensive line I like. I mean, apart from Joe Thomas, I like Joel Bitonio a lot. I think Cameron Irving's a solid player. So, they have the basis of some good stuff going on. I mean, including former Cowboys superstar defensive end Nick Hayden at defensive end. Those are really the days. If you're picking up Cowboys cast-offs on your defensive line, though, you're having problems.
The revolving door that is the Dallas Cowboys defensive end position.
Yeah, I mean, we have our good friend of the podcast, Jordan Poyer, our free safety, who can do some stuff. And have a solid punter in Andy Lee if we're looking for stuff to grab back.
Yeah, you know your team is good when your punter is a Pro Bowl punter. That's when you know you probably should restart thinking some things over.
Right, that's why the Jaguars took Brian Anger in the 3rd round.
Exactly.
They knew that was... But we're past that with the Jaguars now.
Funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the basis of some good stuff here, but this team, to me, is 3 years away.
Maybe.
There's but they need a few more drafts, and they're doing the right thing in picking up extra picks. So, I think that they can get there. I think this is finally a smart front office year, but this year's edition of the Browns is going to be pretty tough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a smart front office, and the ideas of what like of what they're trying to do. But the problem is every draft pick they have seems like they suck. Like Mingo was supposed to be good, isn't. Gilbert was supposed to be good, isn't. Who else was there? Duke Johnson they thought was going to be better. He still has a chance. Obviously, he's still pretty young. But I feel like they keep striking out with draft picks.
Right. No, that's the thing, and like I think you can give this new front office the benefit of the doubt on draft picks just because like they haven't screwed up players in the past. But, like the Browns have obviously had an organizational reputation for not being able to develop players, especially quarterbacks.
Right.
So, I think Hugh Jackson is going to be good for the offense. Like, I think he's going to be able to build a good offense eventually. I think it's not happening with Robert Griffin, who I have less faith in than you do. And it's certainly not happening with Josh McCown. So,
don't forget Connor Shaw.
Yeah, with this team, he really is a quarterback. And that's been the story of the Browns for the entire time that the new Browns have existed. Their best quarterback during that time has been Derek Anderson. So, I think we got a ways to go with this Browns team. And it needs a quarterback in the worst way.
Derek Anderson isn't even allowed to wipe the sweat off Cam Newton's forehead because if he touches him, he probably turn to stone.
Right, exactly. And this is the best guy the Browns have had since the Browns began. So
yeah. So all in all, we don't like the Browns. I have them at 3-13. I don't know what Jonah. What do you have them at?
Yeah, I also have them at 3-13.
Yeah, just not a lot. Like we said, there's talent. There's some things that make you want to like them, but all in all, when you put it all together, it doesn't look like they're going to be a good team.
Yeah, they'll still a few games. RG3 will have a good game. Their defense will be solid at least once.
At least once.
But I can see them stealing the game against Baltimore if they fall asleep, but
right. So speak of the devil, Baltimore. What do you think?
Speaking of Baltimore.
What do you think about them?
This is a team, I have mixed feelings about this team. On the one hand, I always think that, if Baltimore doesn't get crushed by injuries, they'll just make the playoffs because it's the Ravens, and they haven't missed the playoffs 2 years in a row in a really long time, and they missed the playoffs last year, so that would lead you to think that they're going to be solid. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to be better than last year. But I feel like this team is kind of lacking in impact talent, especially young impact talent. If you look at their highest impact players, you have Flacco at quarterback, Marshall Yanda, Mike Wallace, Steve Smith, Terrell Suggs, Elvis Dumerville, Eric Weddle. These are all top players, but everyone I just named is over 30 years old, and a few of them are on the PUP list right now.
Yeah.
So, you could say, oh, well, if they don't have injuries, then they're going to be solid, but this is a team that is, built in such a fashion that they're going to have injuries.
Right, last year you lose Flacco, you lose Steve Smith, Brashad Perryman never got to step on the field. I think a couple running backs got hurt here and there. So Flacco's healthy again, which is nice, but he also has to wear a knee brace all year long, and he's a mobile quarterback, so that's a little scary. They already had good running backs, and now they got better with Kenneth Dixon from Louisiana Tech, and also added Mike Wallace to the wide receiving core. But like I just said, if you need a healthy Steve Smith and Brashad Perryman in order for that receiving core to look a lot better, because Mike Wallace kind of passed his prime. Ben Watson at tight end is going to really help, though, especially with a little slower Joe Flacco, because he was great last year with the Saints. Obviously, they drafted Ronnie Stanley in the first round, who will be good. Jonah loves him. I like him a lot, too. I think he's going to be a good tackle and keep Flacco healthy. Their defense is better. They added Gerard Powers and Eric Weddle to their secondary, so that's helpful. And obviously their linebackers are crazy good with Mosley, Suggs, and Dumerville. I'm a little skeptical about their defensive line, though.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Timmy Jernigan hasn't been as good as people had hoped.
Right.
And beyond that, there isn't much there. I mean, I like parts of this defense. Like, I think they're having a hard time finding another inside linebacker besides Mosley in this 3-4 that they always run.
Yeah.
Because Arthur Brown hasn't been that good, and so they need to find somebody else. Like, they need, I think, a few more pieces in the front seven, especially because there's obviously no guarantee that Suggs is going to be healthy. I mean, he had a relatively recent torn Achilles.
Right.
So, and then Dumerville's had his own injury problems. So if either of those guys fall off, they don't have the insurance with Courtney Upshaw and Paul Kruger anymore. So I think that this is a team that, I mean, they won't have the injuries they had last year, because last year their injury problems were insane.
Right.
The worst in the league. But this is a team where you're going to have injury problems just based on the players that you have. This isn't just it was bad luck last year. They were built in such a way they were going to get injured.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they have some versatility on this offense, especially if Perriman can be good again. They have Keenan Reynolds, who can do a lot of stuff. I like him a lot. And I like Ronnie Stanley, as you said. I think they have good pieces on their offensive line. So they're going to be interesting, and they're not going to finish 5-11 again. But I don't love this team.
Yeah. So what do you have them finishing at?
I have them at 7-9.
All right, I got 6-10. So better than last year, but still close to mediocre.
Yeah.
All right. So that would leave us with the two teams that we think are the best, Steelers and Bengals, and let's start with the Steelers.
Yeah, the Steelers are super intriguing to me. This is a team that has done really an excellent job, I think, reinventing itself. There were all these issues where, people thought that the Steelers, in their current incarnation, were pretty much done when all their defensive players got old, but they kind of rebuilt themselves on the fly.
Yeah.
And so, and they've done a really good job of doing that. I mean, they made the offensive basis of their team, which we haven't seen a lot from Steelers teams. But it's definitely intriguing the way this offense looks. I mean, there's a lot of young guys on this offense now, with Antonio Brown obviously being probably the best receiver in the league now that Calvin Johnson has left us. But I mean, it all comes down to how much people play, because Roethlisberger always has injury problems. Le'Veon Bell has suspension issues again. Obviously, Martavis Bryant's not playing this year, so especially on offense, it's going to come down to who can play and who can't.
Right. I mean, if their offense can learn to stop smoking weed and doing drugs, they'd probably be a lot better. Ladarius Green coming over from the Chargers is going to help at tight end with Big Ben. I mean, their offense is good. Their offense was good last year. They tried to average 30 points a game. They ended up averaging 26.5. They're good. The defense is what scares me a little bit. Obviously, they can outscore anybody if they score 30 a game. The only problem is their secondary is pretty bad. I mean, Sean Davis on the depth charts looks like he might be the starting strong safety. Saw him play at Maryland at cornerback, and he really wasn't that great. I guess his natural position is strong safety, but I don't really know how that's going to work out. Ross Cockrell is going to be their cornerback from Duke. Very good, ball hawk, just not that athletic and somewhat slow. So secondary is pretty thin. Front seven's good, though, like it always is. I want to see if Jarvis Jones and Bud Dupree can kind of live up to their potential like they were supposed to once they were drafted. They've been pretty quiet, but I think they will be pretty good, and I think this is probably the year they take off.
Yeah, I mean, they have first-round picks from 13, 14, and 15 on their linebacker core. Jarvis Jones, Ryan Shazier, and Bud Dupree. And so if they can get that young class of linebackers to be like their linebackers used to be with, like, Barrier, Harrison, and Woodley, like, if they can get similar production out of those three guys that they got out of those guys in the past, with Lawrence Timmons still there anchoring it, like, this is going to be like the Steelers of old on the defense. I agree with you in the secondary, though. I mean, they hope Artie Burns is going to be good. I'm not a huge fan of him.
Yeah, he was a reach in the first round. Or
Right.
was he first or
So-
second round? He was first, right?
First.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they needed to pick a cornerback. So, like they didn't really have much options other than to pick him or to pick someone similar.
Right.
But, I mean, their top corner right now is William Gay, who is now, he's now 31 and not as good as he used to be. And he's the guy who you have to have locking down AJ Green in this division.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some ugly games on that front. Obviously, Ross Cockrell, like you said, has some skills, but he's not super athletic. So they're going to have trouble defending against the pass, and it's really going to lean on those young pass rushers to be able to be the core of that pass defense. Because if quarterbacks on the other team get time to throw, then it's going to be trouble for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so to put their secondary in perspective, Ross Cockrell will probably be their second starting cornerback, and when he was drafted on the depth charts, he was probably 5th or 6th. So they obviously have lost quite a few ahead of him. He has gotten better, so that's not a shot at him, but he's not a starting corner in the NFL. He's probably a slot corner at best. So they're not anywhere near as good as they were when they had Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor and Ryan Clark and that crazy defense that they used to have. But the front seven is good and has potential, so that can help them. And obviously, if they score 30 points a game, it's not really going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're hoping Senquist Golson can take a step forward, which I believe that he can. I've always liked him. So, I mean, he didn't show a lot in his first year. Like, as evidenced by the fact that he's currently, 5th on their cornerback depth chart on a team that has bad cornerbacks. But I do believe in him to hopefully take a step forward.
Yeah.
I think their offense is good, even without Martavis Bryant. As long as Roethlisberger can stay healthy, which is like a fingers crossed proposition, obviously, because it's Ben Roethlisberger. He always misses, 1 or 2 games. But if he can limit it to that, then I think this running game with Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams, I mean, it barely lost a beat when Bell got hurt and Williams was in there, because they have a really good offensive line, especially in run blocking, and they just have a really solid offensive scheme. So I think that the floor for this team on offense is pretty high, even if they have injuries, because they had injuries last year and suspensions, and they were still one of the best offenses in the league. So I believe in the offense. The defense is a little bit trickier. I mean, I do think this team will make the playoffs still, but there's going to be questions.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. As long as you have a healthy Big Ben and a healthy Antonio Brown, I don't see any problems offensively. I think Marcus Wheaton's pretty good. Sammy Coates will be good for them, I think. And I mean, obviously, Le'Veon Bell's probably the second best running back in the NFL, maybe third. And even when he's not playing that well, D'Angelo Williams is a spark plug. So I would love to see them at full strength with Martavis Bryant. Obviously, you have to wait at least a year for that. But anyways, they're still going to be good. I have them at 10-6. I could see them at 11-5, and I also could see them at 9-7. But I'll split the difference and go 10-6.
Yeah, I have them at 10-6 also, and taking the first wild card spot.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs. I don't think there's any question about that. But we also don't think they're going to win the division, and that's going to take us to the Bengals.
Yeah, so this Bengals team, obviously, about their schedule in a minute, because I know that's definitely a factor with the Bengals that you'll want to talk about. But just looking at this roster, even that aside, they have done a lot with this roster, similar to how the Steelers have done, in just turning over old talent into new talent over and over. And you look at their offense, only one of their starters is over 30 years old, and this is still an awesome offense. I mean, they don't even have a lot of backups that are over 30 years old. This is a young, talented offense, led obviously by AJ Green, who's one of the best receivers in the league, and led by Andy Dalton, who pretty much had what I think it would be fair to call a breakout season last year. He's not by any means the best quarterback in the league, but he definitely took himself a notch above that, like, Alex Smith game manager label.
Yes.
Like, he looked like a very solid quarterback last year who you could win a Super Bowl with if you had a good team around him. So I give him a lot of credit for his improvement last year. And they got a good offensive line in front of them. And they have a running game with pretty much a two-headed monster in Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. So there's a lot of dimensions to this offense. And obviously it's the defense, which is also pretty stellar. But I think this offense is nearly as good as the Steelers' offense. I think the defense is a lot better.
Yeah, so their offense is somewhat, it's pretty much the same. Added Brandon LaFell and Tyler Boyd, who I've talked a ton about throughout the draft and all that kind of stuff. Tyler Boyd's one of my favorite players still. I think he's going to be great. He's better than Mohamed Sanu was, and so is Brandon LaFell. So they went from pretty much one receiver in A.J. Green, let's say 1.5, to now 3. And that's going to make Dalton's job a lot easier. I think they're a little nervous to use running back by committee, so to speak, like two-headed monster, like Jonah just said. I think they kept trying to find like one stud. So 2 years ago, Bernard was that stud. Last year, they gave Jeremy Hill the reins, and he was good for some points. I think they really just need to give them both a chance to play all the time and split the reps, and it'll help them out in the long run. The only thing I can see affecting them is they lost Hugh Jackson to the Browns. So, new coach, it's pretty much the same system, but still going to take a little bit of adjusting. But that's what their defense is for. So, same defense, except they added Carlos Dansby at linebacker to probably already the best linebacking core in the NFL. With Ray Maluga, Vincent Ray, Vontaze Burfict, and now Carlos Dansby. That's just nuts. Good cornerbacks. Added William Jackson III from Houston. He's already hurt and probably going to miss the season, but in the long run, he's going to be huge. The only problem I have with the defense is they lost Reggie Nelson, and I don't know that he's going to be that easy to replace for them.
Yeah, they also lost Ben Hall to your Giants. So,
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, they've done a good job building up cornerback talent. Like, people have wondered, like, why they were just taking cornerbacks in the first round, like, every year, forever. And it's for situations like this. Like, now they have Darkeith Dennard as a nickel corner who's obviously has, like, first-round pedigree, and they have Trey Kirkpatrick and Pac-Man Jones, who does not like to be called Pac-Man anymore, but I'll still call him that.
That's from your Dallas days, when he was doing bad things and playing terrible football.
Right, I'm just used to calling him Pac-Man from when he was really bad. But but yeah, I mean, their George Lopez has one of their safeties, so I like a lot. Their defensive line is great. I mean,
So good.
They have Michael Johnson and Carlos Dunlap at the ends. They still got D'Amato Pecco, who's still as disruptive as he ever has been. Plus, obviously, Geno Atkins, who's one of the best interior linemen in the game. So, this defense is, I think, one of the best in the league. Even though they're not going to have their first-round pick for most of this year. Like, I have a lot of faith in what this defense can do.
Yeah, it's still a top 5 defense. Jackson was probably only going to play slot or nickel corner at the absolute best, since they're so deep anyways. So it's not that huge of a loss. I mean, he obviously would have helped, but it's not like the end of the world. This front seven, in terms of 3-4 defenses, it's probably the best front seven. And in terms of 4-3, it's pretty damn close, if not the best also. The only one probably staking a claim to that would be Carolina or maybe Denver. I know they're 3-4, but I think Bengals in terms of talent might be a little bit deeper. But yeah, so like Jonah said earlier, we're going to talk a little bit about the schedule. The Bengals have like the easiest schedule I can remember in quite some time. It's to the point where if you look at it and like figure out who's going to win what just briefly, it's almost like you have to just randomly pick losses because you know they won't go 16-0, but you don't know where they're going to lose.
Right, exactly. I mean, obviously every team's going to lose some games, but like there's no game on the schedule that stands out like, oh, they're probably going to lose that game. they drew some easy divisions to play against, like as division. Like they're playing the AFC East, which we'll talk about soon. But like the only really tough team in that division for a team like the Bengals is the Patriots, and they're obviously more than capable of being the Patriots. So I think that the key to this team is if Dalton can sustain the step forward he took last year. I think he can. Like, I think he showed enough over a full season. It wasn't just they showed flashes last year. He had a solid season all year. And I'm choosing to believe that is what Andy Dalton is now. I don't know, it's possible Hugh Jackson had some role in that, but I think that improvement's not going to disappear when he's gone. Like, I think, I don't know, I believe Dalton can sustain that. And if he does, I think this will be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the whole league.
Absolutely, yeah. I have them going 12-4, which you will see will be my number 1 seed in the AFC. I think they're just that good, and with an easy schedule. I will tell you right now, they'll lose to the Patriots, probably 1 game to the Steelers, and to the Giants on Monday night, because I will be there to root the Giants on, and that's how that works. And then somebody else. It's definitely not going to be Dallas, though.
I would also be surprised if it was Dallas. I would be pretty pessimistic about my Cowboys when we get to them. But,
Do you know when the Bengals play Dallas?
No. When is it?
I don't know, but I hope it's early on, because if it is, I can see Tony Romo not playing for the rest of the year.
Well, right. The thing is, I mean, we obviously have a good offensive line. It's like the one strength of the team. I mean, I think even you'd admit our offensive line is pretty good.
Yep.
But at the same time, this is a super good front seven. Yet we have them in week 5.
Uh-oh. That could be a long time without your quarterback.
There could be trouble coming there. Yeah, I also have the Bengals at 12-4. I think they're going to win this division pretty comfortably, even with the Steelers in it. We're both pretty high on the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, even if the Steelers had their full force of cavalry, I still think the Bengals would be 12-4, and I still think they'd win the division.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more agreement on this part of the AFC podcast than the last one.
Yeah, exactly.
We're pretty much in agreement on the North and East teams generally. The South and West got a little contentious there, but...
Yeah, well, we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Alright, so that'll wrap up the North. So we have Bengals and Steelers both making the playoffs. Steelers as the wild card, Bengals the division winner, and either the 1 or 2 seed probably going to have a bye, which then brings us to AFC East, and we are going to start with the Buffalo Bills. So, offensively, still don't have a receiving core. Robert Woods is good. He's not a number 2 receiver in the NFL, at least not yet. Sammy Watkins had a hard time staying on the field, but still a great receiver. So a little bit thin. Charles Clay, getting him to play tight end is going to be pretty nice for them. Help out Tyrod Taylor a little bit. And they got a great offensive line. I'll save that for Jonah because he loves his offensive lines, obviously as a Dallas fan, since that's the one thing he's got going for him. Sorry.
No, you're right. I agree.
Yeah, so it's really going to be Tyrod Taylor's show this year. They kind of took a chance with him last year. It worked out pretty well. Although they did not make the playoffs, he played well. So they're going to give him the reins again and hope that they have a franchise quarterback. Defensively, we expected them to be a lot better last year. They never really reached that mark, and I don't know that they're that much better this year. I think a second year with Rex Ryan's system will help them. And they also got Adolphus Washington, Reggie Ragland, Shaq Lawson. Unfortunately, Reggie Ragland and Shaq Lawson are going to miss a good chunk of the season, if not all of it. So that immediately hurts them. But I still think they're pretty good, solid enough to win some games and keep them in most games. And I just want to talk a little bit about Gilmore, their cornerback. I think he's going to be a lockdown corner and work his way into a top 5 conversation of corners in this league this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent on this Bills team. Like we did expect their defense to be better than it was last year, but they still finished 8-8, which is better than a lot of people thought they would. That's largely due to Tyrod Taylor being a very pleasant surprise, I think. I think I mean, it's not a fluke that they finished 8-8 last year. Like, they had a positive point differential. It's not like they just got lucky. They played well against the division. But I do think they were a little bit over their heads last year. Like, I think they certainly overperformed to an extent last year, just based on the talent they had. And I don't think this roster looks significantly worse than it did last year. But at the same time, I think that their record probably will be worse because I don't think they were quite as good as their record would have indicated last year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's tough to figure out teams' records because, like, you'll look at them and say, oh, yeah, that team's better, or oh, yeah, that team's the same. And then you look at the schedule and you'll be like, well, why is this not matching up with how good I think the team is? But
right, exactly. Because I'm thinking, oh, they're not worse than last year. And then I was like, well, they went 8-8 last year. This doesn't look like it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that would be, in terms of our win records, that would be close to playoffs. And I don't think either of us really have them close to making the playoffs. I think we wouldn't be floored if they made the playoffs, but we would be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be. There's the only teams in the AFC where I'd be absolutely floored if they made the playoffs are Cleveland and Tennessee.
Right.
So, like, I would not be surprised to see the Bills in the playoffs finally. But I think it's probably not the year. I mean, they do have Reggie Bush on his like fourth team in the last 3 years. So.
Yeah, maybe if he can watch out for those concrete areas right before walls, he might not tear his other ACL this year.
Well, I think in Buffalo in December the field's practically concrete. So.
Right. Yeah. So he's gonna have a hard time. You're right. That's a good point. Yeah. So he's done. That doesn't even count. But yeah, I have them at 6-10 this year. Obviously, 2 games worse than they were last year. And like Jonah said, they don't necessarily seem worse than they were last year, but they're not infinitely better. So by default, they're going to be 6-10.
I actually have the Bills at 5-11, and that seems pretty pessimistic. Like, I'm not sure if they're a true talent 5-11 team. I think it might be more like 6-10. But I think that I expect Tyrod Taylor to regress a little bit. I don't think he's quite as good as he played last year. And I just think by the way that I've picked the AFC so far, I didn't pick enough teams to be bad. And some teams have to be bad. And I think that the Bills are always a candidate for that. So I'm not a huge Rex Ryan believer either, for obvious reasons. So
does it have anything to do with his brother, by chance?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm quite familiar with the Ryan defense at this point. At least first Ryan. But yeah, it would not shock me, obviously, if they did better than 5-11, but that's where I'm going to put them.
Yeah, they're not going to make the playoffs, in our opinion, and they're not that great, but they'll be fighting for the 3rd or 4th spot in that division, probably, which the team they'll be fighting with is going to be the Miami Dolphins, in our opinion, as well. So offensively, they added Arian Foster slightly late, but got the job done. Apparently, he's looked very good. I wouldn't be surprised. He's a great running back. He just got to stay on the field. So that's going to help them a lot since they have Jay Ajayi right now as their starting running back, who is good, just not Arian Foster. Receivers are so good just because of Jarvis Landry. I mean, he's like a smaller version of Odell. They got Leonte Carew from Rutgers, who I talked a lot about in the draft podcast also. Devontae Parker should be good. Hopefully he reaches his potential. Kenny Stills, Jordan Cameron, and there's a lot there for Ryan Tannehill to work with. The offensive line is freakishly good. So good that the Laramie Tunsil is going to be starting at left guard when he's a true tackle, which is crazy. Very, very, very good. But
they all still have Jermon Bushrod on the bench.
Yeah, they have a Pro Bowler on the bench. Can the Giants please use one of these players? Please.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why they didn't go after any of these people.
Yeah, well, whatever. That's how we work. But all in all, it's still going to be about Ryan Tannehill. He still has to play better than he's played. And I'm not necessarily as against Ryan Tannehill as most people are. The dude started at wide receiver for a couple of years in college. I mean, give him a break. He's not barely even a true quarterback. He's still learning the game. He's still learning how to read the defenses. He's only been playing quarterback for 5-6 years at a serious level. So I'm not off the bandwagon yet of Tannehill. I think he has talent. I think he's crazy athletic. So he has a chance. He's RG3-like, but just not polished. And yeah, I'll let Jonah talk about the offense before we get to the defense.
Yeah, like, I feel like with the Dolphins, I'll talk about the defense in a second because this pertains to this point. I feel like with the Dolphins every year for the last few years, I think they made the playoffs like 3 years in a row, and it hasn't happened. They just burn me every time. And I'm trying not to get burned again this year. I think, obviously there's talent on this defense. Like, you always get sucked in by the talent that they have. And, like, you see names like Kiko Alonso, Mario Williams, Cameron Wake, and Dominic Sue, obviously, is still one of the best tackles in the league. But I feel like you get sucked in by these names, and then they always end up less than the sum of their parts. And I think that defense could end up this way again. I don't like Byron Maxwell at all.
Me neither. He's so bad. He's absolutely atrocious.
Like, they're still picking pieces of him out of Des Bryant and Odell Beckham's cleats from last year. So, like, obviously, in this division, he's gonna have a hard time also facing these top receivers. I mean, he's gonna have to guard Brandon Marshall from the Jets, Sammy Watkins from the pushover, and and he's obviously facing AJ Green, Antonio Brown. Like, they're gonna have a hard time, I think, defending the pass because Cameron Wake and Mario Williams are big names that don't produce the way they used to, and they're going to get pressure on the quarterback. Like, they have 3 solid pass rushers on the defensive line, but the question is, can they get enough to overcome their defensive backfield, which I don't think is good at all, and I don't know if they can.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you didn't really touch on much other than Byron Maxwell is the secondary. And I mean, Byron Maxwell is Rashad Jones is their strong safety, and he's good. He's a top 10.
Yeah, he's good.
He's easily top 10 strong safety, if not top 5. So he's good. But Byron Maxwell is their next best player in the secondary, and you just heard Jonah talk about him, and that was probably generous. So he's very, very, very bad. I mean, he's probably the most overpaid player in the NFL, and it's a joke. And their defensive line is good, but I think they were better last year with Olivier Vernon. I think Mario Williams is past his prime, past his peak, past anything that's going to be great. He's still going to be good, probably can get close to 10 sacks, especially with Cameron Wake and Ndamukong Suh next to him. But, yeah, the secondary is weak, and I don't think the defensive line is good enough to make the secondary look that much better. And in terms of linebackers, I mean, I like Koamisi. Jelani Jenkins is okay, and I don't really like Alonzo that much. I mean, when he got traded to Philly, everybody made fun of Chip Kelly for how terrible of a move that was. So their defense isn't really that good. It's definitely the worst defense in the division. But if their offense can produce with the talent they have, which, like Jonah just said, it rarely ever happens, they can be okay. I have them at 7-9, which I'm trying to talk myself out of right now. But I'll go 7-9 just because with the drastically improved offensive line, Tannehill's going to be able to make some more plays than he did in the past. So I'll give him 7-9.
Yeah, and we didn't touch on Adam Gase at all, who's the new head coach.
Right. Yep.
And like he's had success with some shaky quarterbacks in the past.
Jay Cutler.
Right. Yeah, Jay Cutler being the prime example last year. So I think he might be able to help develop Tannehill somewhat. If he can't, no one can probably. I mean, I think if Tannehill doesn't make progress in this year or the next year, then I will jump off the bandwagon. But he hasn't exactly had like an offensive guru to help him out in his first 4 years in the league. So I'll wait and see what he does with this coach. I do like Adam Gase. I think I also have them at 7-9. They were 6-10 last year. I think their improvement in their offensive line and the possible improvement to come from Tannehill will give them a record improvement over last year, even with the questions I have about their defense. So yeah, 7-9 for me for the Dolphins as well.
Yeah, so they'll be I think a little bit better. I mean, basically they just have to play to their talent level and they'll be better. Right. There's talent there, like we just said. So let's go on to the Jets, who probably had the heartbreak of a lifetime for most fans last year, just literally needing to beat the Bills to make the playoffs, and they choked it all away. They did get better. They re-signed Fitzpatrick, got Matt Forte, but they lost Chris Ivory. I think most Jets fans would take that trade. Unfortunately, they still don't have a third receiver. I think they even lost Curley, if I'm correct, in the offseason. Maybe not, but still, he's not that great of a third receiver anyways. So it's just Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. No tight ends really, but a good offensive line. So basically status quo with the offense, other than Matt Forte in place of Chris Ivory. So it's still pretty good. And their defense is just good. I mean, it's always good. Revis and Skrine and D. Milner and Gilchrist and Pryor. Secondary is really good. Front seven's really good. They added Darren Lee to that. And one of Jonas Scrubs and Bruce Carter. Isn't he from North Carolina too?
Yeah, he did go to UNC.
Yeah, there you go. 2 terrible teams he played for so far. But yeah, I mean, they're still good. Probably a little bit better than last year. But the thing that stuck out to me when I was looking at this team is their schedule. It seemed very hard. I would go through it and be like, yeah, the Jets are good, and then get through the schedule and be like, what the hell? They're not going to make the playoffs. So, anyways, it's tough to pick the Jets always because they'll beat teams they're not supposed to, they'll lose to teams they're not supposed to, then they'll play awful, then they'll play terrible, then they'll play great, then terrible, and it's just, they're a weird team, but they're still good with talent nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, their schedule last year was definitely easier than what they have this year. I mean, they did, that's true, but at the same time, they did go 10-6 last year. They would have been 11-5 if they'd beaten that Bills team.
And in the playoffs.
Right, which is more than anybody would have ever expected of the New York Jets football team. I like their offense for sure. They don't have a great third receiving option. I like Jason Morrow to maybe break out this year. I think that this might be the year that he does some stuff.
Yeah.
But I like their offensive line a lot. Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker is a great 1-2 punch. And Fitzpatrick, he's obviously no Tom Brady or anything, but he can give you what Joe Flacco gives you. I mean. Yeah,
no, he's able.
Right, he's going to be productive. Now that they have a quarterback, I think it's possible to make the playoffs. Like you said, their schedule is certainly tough. They have to play Cincinnati, they're at Kansas City, and Pittsburgh, and Arizona, all the same year. And then they have to play Seattle at home. They have to play New England twice. So,
yeah, there's that could be 8 losses right there, 7 losses. I mean, they have the problem that I think the Jets are going to have, I think they'll beat some of those teams you just mentioned. I just think that they're going to have major highs in the season when they beat those good teams, which obviously are generally coupled with some major lows. So I could easily see them beating a team, say they beat New England at home, and then the next week turn around and lose to Buffalo for no reason again. I can see that happening this year just because of the difficulty of the teams they have to play.
Right, and I'm not totally. I love their defensive line and I love their secondary.
Yes.
They have I like Calvin Pryor a ton. I'm not quite as convinced by their linebackers. I mean, David Harris is getting older. I like that they got Darren Lee for sure, but
he's undersized, which is a little scary in the NFL.
Right. Yeah. I mean, their pass rush to me is a little bit suspect. I mean, they obviously get more pressure from their defensive line than pretty much any 3-4 team does, with Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson and Leonard Williams and Jarvis Jenkins and Steve McClendon. They have a defensive line that gets a lot of pressure, so they don't need as much of that from their 4 linebackers. I think it's going to depend a lot on Jordan Jenkins. I think he's kind of an X factor. He's an outside linebacker out of Georgia that was just drafted this year. So I think if he can bring some extra pressure off the edge, and I think he can, then I think this defense is going to be really good. And I hesitate to pick them to make the playoffs because I've been burned by the Dolphins before, and if the Dolphins can burn me, the Jets can certainly burn me. And I'm a little bit wary of buying into the New York Jets of all teams. But I like Todd Bowles a lot as their head coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. I really liked a lot of what I saw from him last year. I think he had this team playing super well. Like they had a very positive point differential. It wasn't a fluke last year. Like this was a team that really was playing well. And they have Ryan Clady at left tackle to replace Brickshaw Ferguson. If he stays healthy, then I think the offensive line is going to be great too. So I'm going to cross my fingers and pick them to go 10-6 again and get the second wildcard spot.
Yeah, you just talked yourself into that one.
I talked myself into it real hard. You guys all heard it. Like that was me talking myself into the Jets. I'm going to regret it greatly later, but I couldn't.
You started off real slow, and then all of a sudden you started rolling with the offense, and the offensive line got you, and then you said 10-6.
Offensive line always gets me. I love offensive line.
I know you do. Yeah, that's got to hang your hat on it.
Yeah, I mean, like I couldn't pick the same 6 AFC playoff teams from last year. Like I was on track for that, and so basically what I have is the Chiefs dropping out of the playoffs and the Jets coming in.
You could have jumped on the Jaguars and Raiders bandwagon like somebody else in this podcast.
I know. I didn't want to do it though. I mean, like those are 3 teams where I'm not comfortable buying any of them, so I have to hold my nose and buy one of them, and I decided to buy the Jets.
No, I mean that's a good point. It's just the schedule is what scares me. And one thing,
True.
What Jonah just said was how he's a little worried about the pass rush for the Jets. And the Jets are different than most teams because most teams have a good pass rush, which makes their secondary better. And the Jets are reversed. They have a good secondary, which buys their pass rush time to get to the quarterback. You don't really see that with many teams.
Right.
Like the Giants have always hung their hat on getting to the quarterback fast, and if they don't, they're freaking screwed. And trust me, I know that more than anyone. So, I mean, with Revis and Buster Skrine, D. Milner, who's hopefully going to live up to his potential, Calvin Pryor, who we already talked about, is such a good safety. Their secondary is very good. So that makes their defensive line look better, and they already have great defensive linemen. It's just the outside rush that we're worried about. So I think if that secondary performs, then the rush will be fine. All that being said, I have them at 8-8 just because of how tough their schedule is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead.
So, like, just in terms of the rest of the AFC, I mean, we can get to this, I guess, but I would say I'd buy the Raiders before I'd buy the Jaguars, but I'm still just suspect of those teams. I like the coaching staff in New York a lot, and I'm just continuing to talk myself into the Jets, but...
No, I hear you. You got to do it. I understand. You have to do it.
Yeah, you got to talk yourself into somebody.
All right, so...
You're to Jacksonville. Same thing.
That leaves us with the New England Patriots, a team that Jonah and I personally cannot stand.
Yeah.
But you got to talk about them.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, you got to talk about them every year because they're good every single year.
Yep.
So 4 games without Tom Brady. They play the Cardinals, Bills, Dolphins, and who's the other one you said? Texans.
The Cardinals, the Bills, the Dolphins.
Texans, right?
And I'm pulling up the Texans.
Yeah. All right. So Cardinals is opening weekend. Jonah and I both don't see them winning that game. Then the other 3 are pretty winnable. I could see them going 3-1. I'm gonna give them 3-1. And then Tom Brady comes back. So Tom Brady is coming back to wide receivers that are better because they added Malcolm Mitchell and Chris Hogan. You also still have Amendola and Julian Edelman. Then you have Bennett. Martellus Bennett was added. Martellus Bennett was added as their tight end to play next to Goofball Gronkowski, which is just as good, if not better, than Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. And their offense is good. Their offense is better. So if they can find an offensive line combination that stays healthy and can still protect the quarterback, their offense is going to be really good. And then defensively, they added some players, Chris Long and Terrence Knighton. I like both of them a lot. I actually was kind of hoping the Giants would get one, if not both. Cyrus Jones, Jonah and I talked a lot about before the draft. We like him a lot. I think he's going to work really well with Belichick's system, and be a little rover kind of cornerback out there. And their linebacking core is good. I'm just a little worried about who their middle linebacker will be to take control of the defense. But all in all, the Patriots are still just as good as they always are.
Yeah, I mean, they lost Gerard Mayo, which is going to be tough, and that's why they're kind of moving to more of a 4-3 system. They obviously play a lot of hybrid fronts because it's the Patriots, and Belichick is going to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
You can't say like definitively that they're one or the other, but their defensive line is great, even with Ninkovich out. I mean, Chris Long, Andrew Ballsheard, and Malcolm Brown, Terrence Knighton is like anybody would like to have that defensive line. I agree that their linebackers could be a little bit suspect, but I don't see their secondary as that much of a problem. I like Cyrus Jones. I like Malcolm Butler. Logan Ryan is a little bit iffy, but the rest of their secondary, I think, is solid. I don't love their offensive line. I'm always one who talks about offensive lines, but
I know. I leave them for you every time.
Right. I mean, they did trade for Jonathan Cooper, who is kind of a high risk, high reward play. I mean, when he first came into the draft, he was considered one of the best guard prospects of the last 10, 15 years.
Is he from North Carolina also?
Yeah.
And he was the one that they traded for with Chandler Jones?
Jones, yeah.
Gotcha, all right.
Which, like, obviously, just talent-wise, the Cardinals had the better end of that, but the Patriots are trying to dump Jones' salary,
and they got an offensive lineman, which they needed.
Right, they got a solid lineman back. If he can stay healthy, which was his only problem in Arizona, like, the talent is obviously still there. So, he could be very successful. We'll see if Sebastian Vollmer can stay healthy. That's a factor. They're going to be starting a rookie at left guard in Joe Thuney. I'm not a big fan of Brian Storkins in there, but like these are smallish issues. So when it gets to the Patriots, they always find a way to get stuff done. I love that two tight end tandem, like you were just talking about. I think this is going to be. I think Gronkowski and Martellus Bennett is going to be an even better version of Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. And if Martellus Bennett can avoid getting life without parole sentence in Massachusetts prison, then it's going to end up better. So the bar's pretty low to clear for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the last time a team had two Pro Bowl tight ends on their roster, and we're going to use them as like wide receivers, and we're athletic as these two are. I mean, this might be, in terms of tight ends, this is obviously the best Tom Brady's had. In terms of overall receiving core, including those two tight ends, it might be close too. I mean, I know when they had Randy Moss, they were pretty good, but this receiving core is good, and that's all Tom Brady needs. I mean, he's kind of like how Peyton Manning was. They make receivers better.
Exactly. People have questions always, like every year, like, oh, who's the Patriots' third receiver? Who do they have besides these like little white guys at receiver? But like, people forget that like Tom Brady, for his entire career with the Patriots, has, like, besides Randy Moss, has, like, even with Randy Moss, he's never had more than one great receiver at a time.
Yeah, a couple years ago they run out Aaron Dobson.
And, like, he did that with so many guys, too many to count. Deion Branch, and, like, he made Brandon LaFell a thing. Like,
Tim Brown, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys who had been, like, cast-offs from other teams or low draft picks, like, Tom Brady makes receivers. And so people look past Amendola and Edelman and think, like, oh, all they got is Nate Washington and Keyshawn Martin. Like, they have Tom Brady. They'll be fine.
Exactly.
Like, they'll throw passes to those guys. And the wide receiver depth matters less for the Patriots than any other team because of the tight ends that they have.
And this is the year that they probably have the most depth in terms of receivers that they've had in a while. So I'm nervous to see how that works out for Brady. I have them at 11-5 and gonna be the second seed in the AFC behind the Bengals.
I have the Patriots. I have the Patriots at 12-4. I think they'll have the same record as the Bengals. But I think that the Patriots will be the number one seed because I think they'll win their game against Cincinnati. So I'm gonna have the Patriots and Bengals both at 12-4, but the Patriots getting the number one seed.
All right, so let's go through. So I have my seeding would be Bengals 1 at 12-4, Patriots 2 at 11-5. Wow, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Raiders 3 at 11-5. Jaguars 4 at 10-6. This is incredible. And then my wild card teams would be the Chiefs at 10-6 and the Steelers at 10-6. And I'll say the Steelers will be the 5, so the Chiefs will be the 6 seed. So pretty much craziness happening with the 3 and 4 seed, but everything else is normal.
Yeah, so I have the Patriots at 1. I have the Bengals at 2. I have Denver at 3, Houston at 4, and then Pittsburgh at 5, and the Jets at 6.
Yeah, so a lot of differences if you can tell.
Which, hold on, that season I just mentioned sets up a first-round matchup of the Mark Sanchez-led Denver Broncos against the New York Jets, his former team.
Who he took
Mark
to 2 AFC championships.
It's happening. I'm all in on Mark Sanchez redemption.
Oh.
He had a good game yesterday in his first preseason game.
Oh.
I'm all in on Sanchez.
That's a Dallas fan talking, all about the preseason games and offensive lines.
Yep, all about offensive line. I'm the observer of offensive lines. The Cowboys have had a good one.
Yeah, if you have a question about technique, if you're a high school prospect looking to go to college, just send Johnny a tape. He'll bust it down for you real quick.
Absolutely.
So next week we will have NFC West and NFC South, and then we'll get into the North and East the following week. In my opinion, the NFC is more fun to talk about just because there's a little bit more talent and the teams are more fun and interesting. I don't know, I'm probably just a homer since I'm an NFC East fan, but
I still have no idea how I'm picking the NFC East, so it'll be
well, you got 2 weeks to sleep on it, so you'll be alright.
Yeah, I'll be alright.
I'm sure somehow the Cowboys will make it out 8-8 and be on top of the division, knowing you.
Yeah, you can bet on me finding a way.
Alright, so that'll do it for this week, and we will see you next week for the NFC West and the NFC South.
Yep, thanks for listening.